Strange but true stories. Tales from the light side, the dark side, and the other side. I'm Steve White. Well, today's story may be more of a tale from the furry side. Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Yeti, Yowie sightings have been written about by people from all over the world. But in Vietnam, there's a strange creature that many soldiers during the Vietnam War claimed to have come into contact with. Sightings of what the locals called the rock ape in Vietnam were common enough that an NVA general organized an expedition in 1974 to try to capture or at least kill one. Rock apes are not nearly as well known as other cryptids, but sightings of these mysterious creatures by American troops in the jungles of Vietnam throughout the course of the Vietnam War were surprisingly numerous, with many witnesses giving extremely detailed accounts of sightings. One particular hill in Vietnam was the site of so many rock ape sightings that it became known as Monkey Mountain. While no corpses of these strange creatures were ever recovered, or any clear pictures taken of them, the fact that sightings of them were so widespread and common throughout the war makes them worthy of at least a discussion. Take this story, for example. Alfonso Villarreal joined the U.S. Marines in 1967, and after basic training, a stint at machine gun school at Camp Pendleton, he soon found himself in the heat of the jungle of South Vietnam. 6 months into his tour, as a member of Company M 3rd Battalion 5th Marines, the 23-year-old Villarreal and his squad headed to a battle zone. The temperature that day hovered near 115 degrees, and he found himself fourth in line, following a column in the dense jungle near the Laotian and Cambodian borders, where Villarreal heard a loud boom. The explosion was one that all soldiers feared. Villarreal remembered saying, "The landmine killed the first two. I was the fourth and was hit by shrapnel up one side of me. It didn't kill me. It blew me off to the side. When I heard the boom, I turned around to my side and the blast pushed me about 20 yards away," he said. Now, his encounter with the rock ape didn't happen that day, but soon after. His injuries were severe, but he was patched up and put back in the field about 6 weeks later. Now, one of his first missions with his platoon was a reconnaissance mission. While they were attempting to recon their target, one of his comrades saw off in the distance what looked like a large medicine ball moving toward them through a ravine. The object kept moving toward them until it was right up on the end of a rifle. The Marine tapped the thing, and the thing started screaming, yelling, waving its arms all over, and then it ran away. I was told later that it was a baby rock ape, Villarreal said. Rock apes are said to be indigenous to Vietnam's hills and rocky areas. A short time later, on top of the steep sides of the ravine the soldiers were in, came large boulders, like of the 300 to 400-pound variety. Nobody was hit, but the baby rock ape's adults were rolling and heaving stones at us. Later, the adult apes were coming down the path toward the platoon. They seemed dauntless. They were like gorillas, Villarreal remembered. And they had, 4 to 5 inch fangs. We had to shoot them. I think there were about 17 of them, he said. The little rock ape was not among the dead. I've never seen anything like it, he said. I was scared all the time. So many unknowns all around, it seemed. Villarreal received an honorable discharge as a lance corporal and was decorated with several medals, including the Purple Heart. And he'll never forget the strange rock ape creatures that crossed his platoon's path that day. So, Lance Corporal Villarreal tells his tale of coming face to snout with rock-throwing apes, or rock apes because of their propensity for throwing rocks, usually in retaliation. They were also known to toss grenades hurled their way back at the throwers. They weren't the size typically associated with Sasquatch or Bigfoot that people in North America have claimed to see. Only growing up to about 6 feet tall, They were said to be strongly built with long limbs and protruding stomachs. The rock apes were covered in brown or reddish-brown hair. They were also thought to live in family units or groups, rather than living a solitary existence, and their habitat was confined to remote areas of the jungle, far from human habitation, areas that the Vietnam War opened up. At first, the descriptions of these creatures seemed to point to the fact that they may have simply been misidentified orangutans. But while orangutans once did inhabit Vietnam, they became extinct there thousands of years ago. Also, much of what troops in Vietnam reported about the rock apes doesn't really match typical orangutan behavior. While orangutans are sometimes social animals, they spend far more time foraging alone. That misidentification happened in this soldier's account of his platoon's encounter with a rock ape. It was a hot day. Okay, that's kind of redundant in the jungle of Vietnam during the summer. Me and 5 other guys from the 101st Airborne Division were taking a short water break in the middle of this mountainous jungle. We had been carrying heavy equipment all day under an unforgiving sun, with mosquitoes using us as their lunch buffet. The jungle was full of unfamiliar sounds and views that none of us were really familiar with back at home. We were on high alert any time we were out on patrol because you just couldn't see that far ahead of you. So all of our senses were dialed up and keenly scanning for anything new in our area. Suddenly, we saw a few small trees located about 15 yards uphill begin to shake. Now, we didn't panic or overreact. We didn't start shooting at it. We had trained for this. We took defensive positions and we got ready for a fight with what we thought were VC soldiers about to jump out of the bushes. But we could never have imagined what we saw next. A long, cucumber-shaped head showed up. The face was covered in reddish-brown hair, with a pair of dark eyes and a huge mouth. The creature then stepped out of the vegetation into a clearing, allowing the group to observe the rest of its muscular body. The reddish-brown hair covered its body. It wasn't taller than 5 feet, and it walked upright. It stopped, looked at us as though making notes on each one of us. One of the guys said, "Don't shoot it." "What the hell is that?" one of my buddies whispered. "It's a rock ape," said the first guy. "No, it ain't," a third man said. "I've seen rock apes, and that sure as hell isn't a rock ape." We didn't take our eyes off the creature. "It's an orangutan, isn't it?" asked another. "Well, if it is, then he can't read a map. There are no orangutans in Vietnam." After about 30 to 45 seconds, it wandered off back into the jungle. We were pretty amazed at what we had just witnessed, and had one heck of a story to tell once we got back home. That is, if anybody would believe us. Another possible candidate for misidentification is the northern white-cheeked gibbon, which is native to Vietnam. Like the mysterious rock apes, these gibbons live in large social groups, and they spend most of their time in the trees, but the size descriptions don't match up. Gibbons are far smaller than the 5 to 6 foot heavily built rock apes, with male white-cheeked gibbons weighing, on average, about 20 pounds. Some rock ape sightings, however, may well have been gibbons because the rock apes in question were said to only be around 3 feet tall. Sightings of rock apes by Viet Cong and NVA troops were also common enough that an NVA general organized an expedition in 1974 to try to capture, or at least kill, one of these legendary creatures and return it back to civilization as evidence. The expedition was unsuccessful, though, and no hard evidence for the existence of the rock apes was found on that trip. Other expeditions were organized, but no physical encounters occurred. However, strange human-like, but definitely not human footprints were found in the jungle in 1970 by a professor from Hanoi's Pedagogic University. He made casts of the footprints, but found no further evidence of the rock ape's existence. Something quite striking about the many sightings of the rock apes reported by American troops is the fact that these creatures showed little to no fear of humans. They displayed this trait to such an extent that startled troops out on patrol in the jungle would often happen on rock apes at distances of a few yards, often getting quite a fright as they thought they had just come across an enemy patrol rather than a troop of monkeys or a group of apes. This apparent lack of fear of humans could be explained by the fact that rock apes, if they do exist, inhabited ranges that were usually so far away from humans that they saw them as no threat, or, if reports about their large size were accurate, that they saw human beings as too small or weak to present a significant threat to them. On at least one occasion, in fact, a large troop of rock apes was said to have attacked a group of Marines en masse. So, what ultimately is the truth about the mysterious rock apes of Vietnam? Were they misidentified orangutans or gibbons? Were they simply hallucinations conjured up by extremely stressed and troubled young minds? Were they an entirely new species, as yet undiscovered by science? Until some hard evidence is found, we can't really give any of those questions a definitive answer. Perhaps some lucky researcher will come up with something and surprise the world. After all, the existence of the giant squid, that mythical kraken long thought to be nothing but a legend, was proven to be real. Until then, though, stories of rock apes remain just that, stories. Fitting for SBT. So, what do you think? Truth or figment? Real yet undiscovered creature? Or product of an overstressed or drugged mind? Let us know in the comments below. And if you have an encounter you'd like to share with us, we'd love to hear it. Send your story in an email to strangebutTrueStories2@gmail.com. Subscribe if you haven't already, and sign up for notifications so you know when the next story drops to the channel. Thanks to all who have, and thanks for listening to this story. I'm Steve White. Until next time.